Hello friends, neighbors, John your Wish neighbor here. Welcome down the Nook and happy Canadian Thanksgiving. I knew I wanted to shoot some Canadian whiskey for the weekend. I think if we're getting together as family and friends, or even just being very thankful, it's nice to pour something from Canada on Canadian Thanksgiving. And of course we have a lot more rye and corn whiskey, possibly even wheat than we have single malt. Well, probably not anymore. But single malt is really a growing category, a growing genre in Canadian whiskey. Of course, Scotland's known for amazing single malts, but we've got some excellent single malts here in Canada as well. So I want to talk to you about two of them. This is Glenbow whiskey from Bridgeland. They're out of Calgary. I had the privilege of talking to Jacques and Daniel on the channel. And this, well, you can hardly tell because the label, it's right down in the corner. This is Macaloney's off Vancouver Island. And they are also just making some exceptional single malt. So we'll talk about Glenbow out of Bridgeland. And this is a single cask for Wine and Beyond, but we'll talk about Macaloney's on Vancouver Island when we get back. So pour, if you have it, some Canadian single malt. Come back and let's just sip some whiskey and be thankful. 3, 4. Okay, let's get started in some Canadian single malt. This is a smaller bottle, so it's probably a little harder to capture on the camera, but it is, from Bridgeland Distillery. They're proudly in Calgary here in Alberta. And, you read the description on Glenbow whiskey here, and I think it tells exactly where they are right now as a distillery. They can tell you, and they do, the exact farm that this barley came off of. They can tell you exactly, Red Shed Malting, who malted it for them. And then, of course, it's their own distillery. So it is single farm, single malting, single distillery, which is pretty cool. This Glenbow is, I think, a regular on the shelf for them. It's released at 46.3%. And as it describes, it says new and used, new and old American oak. So it's got some virgin American oak. But when it says old, it means it's been used before. But I don't recall whether they mean it's been used in their program before or it's ex-bourbon. And I'm sorry, Jacques and Daniel. I'm pretty sure we talked about that. So maybe I'll add it below when we're editing. But let's see what this Canadian single malt from here in Alberta is like. This is sweet on the nose. This is honeys, light pastries, sweet almonds. There's malt sugar in here. There's light fruit, like very light orchard fruits. And a little bit of that young malt that I get with younger single malts, but not as heavy as many of the newer Canadian single malts I've been having. This does already nose fuller, richer, and a bit more mature. Let's try the Glenbow whiskey, this single malt blend, on the palate. Cheers. On the palate, it does really hold together. It's graham crackers and light pastry and honeys. It's all the things I had in the nose, but in an almost creamy way. I should say both of these, natural color, non-chill filtered, as whiskey should be. Not that many spices though. This is on the side of softer, on the side of lightly nutty, light fruits, light sweet oaks in there. This tends to be a little bit more on the sweeter profile, but in the palate it's fuller, it's richer. Better try another sip. Cheers. Very well done single malt. Like it is creamy on the edge of kind of smooth, but it's got good heart and backbone. That new oak is holding it up in terms of a little bit of oak structure. Lovely light sugars, lovely light. This is in the palate far more mature than many of the single malts of this age. I'm guessing it's around 4 years, somewhere in there, 4 to 5. So it's a pretty young single malt, but it is beautiful, creamy, tasty. If you haven't had Glenbow and you like single malt and you're living here in Canada, I really do recommend it. This is easily a 4.25 for me. This is a beautiful Canadian single malt. As I said, I wanted to shoot what I'm quite sure will be a contrast in Canadian single malt. This is a single cask for Wine and Beyond, but it is a single cask of Canadian single malt from Macaloney's. Macaloney's is on Vancouver Island. Graham Macaloney and the two other Scotsmen, I think, are doing amazing work, fantastic, excellent quality work. I haven't had the pleasure of talking to them. Hey guys, you want to come on the channel? Tuesday nights is when I like to do it. This is 46%, and it says matured in a recharred red wine barrel. So, and I think it might be Canadian. I did hear from, was it Matt Whiskey on the West Coast, that said it's probably close to their Knack Brick, kind of a house style where they do an STR Portuguese wine cask. And so that makes sense that it's probably very, very similar to that. I haven't had it. But if any of the notes that I get on this sound pretty good, I think that'd be the way to go if you can't get the Wine and Beyond here in Alberta. So on the nose, and again, like natural color, and these guys couldn't be more different. This is dark and rich, but it's bronze and gold and straw, and this is dark and rich, and it is just dark prune red. This is pretty dark. Let's try it on the nose. Whoa, that is different. It is so different than this. Sweet, light, creamy red wine, charred oak, walnuts instead of sweet almonds, that kind of note. And there's a little bit more malt note in this. Now it's on the edge of young malt note on the nose. Let's try it on the palate. Cheers. I don't know how to describe what happens to me every time I pour this and sit through it. The palate is significantly better than the nose. Nose is great. Nice flavors. Nothing put me off by the nose. But the palate is full, rich. It pushes all the way. When I say full, I mean it's almost like, when you've got a nice caramel chocolate where, you've got some sweetness for whatever that nougat is in the middle, but then the chocolate's pushing out to the edges and you're going to get it off your teeth. I'm not saying this tastes like that. There's a little bit of chocolates in here, lots of malt, lots of red fruit. I'm trying to describe, and espressos on the back end, and graham, like darker things now on the finish. I'm just trying to describe the experience because it is so difficult on a camera here like this to give you a sense of that. I really, and it is heavy-handed on the cask. I will say it's heavy-handed in the red fruits. It's heavy-handed in a lot of that, but it works with this malt for me, for my palate, for what I enjoy. If I'm reaching for a thick, heavily cast red wine, this is going to be on that list. It's delicious. I should take another sip as I do, see if there's something else going on. Cheers. Less sweetness and more darkness, more char and bittersweet chocolate and espresso coffee, more of that on the second sip. And in fact, I've noticed it does trend darker, and that can be good. It is certainly tasty. Both of these. Oh, I need to give it a star value because I haven't with you guys. This is tough. That mouth experience is phenomenal. It's absolutely a favorite. And again, if I'm reaching for this kind of dark, rich color, it's incredible. Right now, it's just sitting somewhere at 4 stars, which I bet everybody who's had both would have pegged this at 4.5 if I gave this 4.25, and I respect that. And it could be a swing that way when it's a little bit more mature. It's just on the edge of a little heavy-handed for me, and that kind of makes sense. Ryan Egan, I wish I had your job. I think he pulls into heavier flavors when he picks single cask. He pulls into more oaks when he's pulling up single cask bourbons, in my opinion. And I think that's what this is. This is rich casking. And it is. It totally is. And you know, sure, it's at least 4.25. I don't know what I'm doing up here anyways. I'm trying to describe flavors rather than really rate and compare. I only do ratings because then sometimes if I go back 6 months, it gives me a sense of where I am. Otherwise, ratings are so different on the day or what I had before, or how happy I am that day. It's terribly subjective. I think what I would say is not subjective is these are excellent Canadian single malts, and I am very, very thankful we have them here. Speaking of thankfulness, just about every year, if I'm doing any kind of reflections on, what I'm thankful for, and sometimes as a family, if we get together as an extended family, we do this, we share it, what are we thankful for? And there's a ton of hardship in this world. I pray for all areas of war and strife, for peace. I want an end to that, to violence, to anger, to war, to pain, to all the evil that happens in areas that are under that. I can't pray hard enough for that. I am thankful that I have family. I'm thankful that I have neighbors. The other day I was on the street looking up here in St. Albert at the unbelievable Northern Light display. Unbelievable. We just talked, and we could talk freely and openly and casually. And what a great thing to do that, to have neighbors that we can talk with. And as tough as it is, you look at the political landscape, you look at the bitterness, the strife, the unwillingness to talk through hard debates instead of polarizing us. We are still here in a great place. I can vote how I want. I can disagree with you, you can disagree with me, and I can pour you a good single malt and we'll have a good night. I am thankful for that. I challenge you to dig around and find something to be thankful for this weekend. Certainly if you're in Canada, and think about that, and hopefully it inspires you to have a fantastic fall. Cheers to a great, great series of single malts. Have a great weekend.